Hey guys, Breanna here. So right off the bat, if you haven't seen the movie yet, don't continue watching. It's going to have a lot of spoilers, so wait until you've seen the movie. We're good? Okay, cool. So the first thing I want to talk about is the perception of this film. While watching this movie, it occurred to me that I shouldn't try and view it the way I would view a Marvel movie. And I think that's a problem for some people, including myself, to be able to do. Marvel has created this sort of standard as to how a format of a superhero series should be. I expected to see a couple of warm-up films before we saw any characters put together into a movie. That's how Marvel did it, but we're not getting that here. With Batman vs. Superman, this is definitely a movie about two different characters. It's different, and some could say it's rushed. You'll have to decide that for yourself. I really enjoyed the political aspects of this film, both from Bruce Wayne's perspective and from Clark Kent's perspective. I think it's really important that within the first 15 to 20 minutes, we actually spent some time backtracking to the battle against Zod, except this time we're spending it with Bruce Wayne. Bruce, who has just landed in Metropolis to check on his people and his companies. Bruce, who, much like the rest of the world, is seeing alien life for the first time, and they're fighting. We feel his panic, and more important, we feel his resentment. So we'll talk about Batman first. Ben totally rocked it. It was a great performance all around, as Batman, but more importantly to me, as Bruce Wayne. That's honestly been my problem with a lot of the Batman films, is while we've had a lot of really good Batmans, we haven't had a lot of solid Bruce Wayne characters. Ben was Bruce's calculated approach to a situation. He was his cool and suave and slightly drunk public demeanor. But most importantly, he was Bruce's rage and torments. He planned things out and did his research the way Batman would. My only hang-up, he's totally killing people. Now granted, it's all bad guys, but it's still a really important aspect of the Batman character that he doesn't kill. I have no problem with him dropping a few bodies, maybe if it's absolutely necessary, but the amount of death as a result of Batman was kind of jarring. So now we'll talk about Superman, who I thought was the main character of the film, but really is a co-star. Don't get me wrong, I love Batman, but I was really looking forward to some one-on-one time with Superman Clark Kent, and I don't feel like I really got that. Now I know what you're saying. Superman had his own film a couple of years back, 3 years back, Man of Steel. But I had a couple of qualms with that film as well. One of my biggest gripes is that for neither Man of Steel or Dawn of Justice, we spent enough time with Clark Kent. In Man of Steel, we focused so much on his Kryptonian background, hardly any time on what made Clark Kent, Superman, want to save this planet. Superman is Kal-El, yes, but predominantly, he's Clark Kent. He was raised an Earthling. He grew up here, loved people here. That's what makes him want to protect this planet, and I don't feel like we spent enough time with Clark Kent as opposed to Kal-El Superman, which for me is overall the biggest failure. We did get a little itsy bit of John Kent, Kevin Costner in this film. After spending so much time with Jor-El in Man of Steel, it was nice that for this film, when Clark needed a moment to reflect on himself, to consider his options, he looked to his memories of John Kent, of the man who raised him. One of the founding reasons he's not just Superman, but Earth's Superman. Throughout this film, Dawn of Justice, Superman, he's in the hot seat. People of Earth are questioning whether or not it's okay to have this superpowered being running around acting of his own accord. There are people blaming him for their ails as a result of the battle against Zod. There are those calling him a god and a savior, and there are those questioning what he could do with his abilities, if he felt so inclined. It's an intelligent and intriguing topic. Unfortunately, we don't really get an answer to it because shit goes down. But the idea of how Clark Kent would handle this kind of situation is really compelling. He talks to his mom, he talks to Lois, he has the aforementioned intimate moment within his own head with his father there, and it was nice to see all of that. It was nice to see his struggle with how the world is perceiving Superman. But what I would have liked to see was more regular guy stuff, like, I don't know, maybe him doing his job. How has the Daily Planet not fired his ass? Speaking of being a reporter, please get Lois Lane out of those heels. While the silhouette of stilettos is a lovely image in a dark backlit alley while talking to a CIA representative, no reporter is getting around in those heels. Bitch needs some Nikes. Lex Luthor. Jesse Eisenberg didn't do bad, but a lot of the mannerisms he used were reminiscent of Heath Ledger's Joker, which I get it, everyone ate that stuff up, but that isn't historically Lex Luthor. And the place this bothered me most was his speech at LexCorp when he's talking and he sort of loses his train of thought. That wasn't Lex. Lex is a meticulous, well-polished individual. Much like Bruce Wayne, he plans ahead. He's always one step ahead of the game. And I think those aspects of his character are important and important to keep, because the reason Lex Luthor works is because of those qualities. The reason he has been able for decades to go toe-to-toe with Superman is because of that intellect. That being said, he didn't completely flop the role. He displayed a lot of Lex's cunning in other scenes. particularly with the senators Barros and Finch. He smooth-talked his way into getting what he wanted out of Barros, and though Finch wasn't interested in succumbing to his will, she later reaped the repercussions of that. And that scene was pretty amazing. It was a really fast scene, but I think that's what made it kind of good, because when she turned that jar, for those few seconds, she is the only person in the room who knows what's about to happen, and more importantly, who's to blame. And Superman, even though he's there, can't do anything about it. No one can. And that was pretty powerful. Damn, Lex. One thing that did make Lex Luthor work was the music that they used. From the very first scene that they introduced him alone in LexCorp, it was sort of like a horror movie scene where you're introduced to this character and this sort of dark music begins to play, sort of like a stage performance. The music came on and it was strikingly villainous, and that really, really worked for me. Also, the scene on the helipad when Lex throws Lois off of the edge and, of course, Superman catches her and saves her and all that, but that scene really well done for Lex's character. This is, for the movie, the first time we've seen Lex and Superman together on screen. Not Lex and Clark Kent, Lex and Superman. And that very first time they encounter each other, Lex brings Superman to his knees, crudely flicking Polaroids of his captured mother at him. That was cunning Lex. That was meticulous Lex. That was spot on. So while I'm still sore that we don't have our Wonder Woman movie yet, we are getting it next year in 2017. Thank you. I was a little worried about the casting of her because I thought the actress was a little bit too skinny for my taste. She is an Amazonian after all. That being said, it would be really cool if we got a workout scene, kind of like what Bruce had in this film, but for Diana Prince. But Gal Gadot did a really, really good job. Girl's got eyebrow game. Additionally, I'm glad we didn't spend too much time on her character, because if we did that on top of Batman's storyline and Superman's storyline, it just would have been way too much. What we did get of her was good. She clearly has some stuff going around, some pieces of her background that we get little hints of, but not a full picture. We don't really know what she's been doing up until this point. And I think the scene where she kind of gives Bruce Wayne the slip at LexCorp does make a little bit of sense. I mean, Bruce wasn't planning for her, so I think she would have been able to give him the slip just this once. I also really enjoyed her in battle. I enjoyed her yelling. I enjoyed her laughing when Doomsday is throwing her around. I need more of that. I want Wonder Woman ugly yelling. It's good stuff. Keep bringing it. Another thing I want to talk about is some of the imagery throughout this film. We had some really, really good, powerful shots throughout this movie when Superman flies off to assist people from a burning fire during the Day of the Dead celebration. Saves a woman from the fire and hands her off to, I'm assuming, a relative. All of the people are crowding around him, reaching out for him, reaching out to touch this man they are beginning to idolize, this man that throughout the world being viewed to some as a god. He's kind of solemn during that moment. He's really digesting what is occurring. And just the image of all of these people reaching out to touch him was really, really striking and really, really well done. Another scene I really, really liked was the funeral procession. I really loved the back and forth between Smallville and between the national procession. And this is why the focus on Clark Kent is important, because the national procession is for Superman, but the one in Smallville, the one that Lois is at, the one that Bruce Wayne is at and Diana Prince is at, the one that Martha is at, that one's for Clark Kent. So the battle, Batman versus Superman. I thought it was pretty rad and really well done. Both Superman and Batman were emotionally driven for the scene. Granted, Batman was driven for a longer period of time, but that makes sense for his character. He planned, he plotted, and came up with a way he could defeat Superman. And this being Batman and Superman's first time fighting each other, it makes sense. It makes sense that Superman wouldn't be prepared for how well prepared Batman is. Now, if they had a second fight, the result might be a little bit different. But we're not going to get that second fight. Batman even told Martha Kent that he's Clark's friend. It was a sensical way of Batman bringing down Superman. So Martha Kent, how have I never noticed before that they have the same names? And really, what a way to turn the tables. The importance of that name in both Batman and Superman's lives. It's what changed everything. It's what ruined Lex's plan. The mom. That was pretty rad. Overall, I enjoyed the film. It was aesthetically pleasing, the graphics were great, there was strong writing in certain places and weaker writing in others. But I do have hope that the DC Universe will be able to create some more character-driven films from this. We're obviously setting up for a Justice League movie, which again seems kind of scary given the format that Marvel has created for us and gotten us accustomed to. But we're still really young in this franchise, and it could go in all sorts of different directions. I'm willing to give DC the benefit of the doubt, and I'm excited for the upcoming films.